Ammi Burke has been ordered to pay the legal costs, or most of the legal costs, not all, most of the legal costs for her failed High Court challenge to the Workplace Relations Commission and Arthur Cox, arising from her bringing a claim for unfair dismissal to the Workplace Relations Commission. The court decided, Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger decided, that the court should mark its disapproval at Miss Burke's conduct during the proceedings. So Miss Burke has to pay all of the costs for the original hearing of the substantive issue between the parties, which was abandoned by Justice Marguerite Bulger, who described Miss Burke's conduct as an abusive process. So she abandoned the original hearing. Miss Burke had raised an issue about the use of a transcript and the use of a court stenographer. Miss Justice Bulger originally was surprised that the court had been provided with a transcript of the hearing, the original hearing, I think, and the judge accepted the explanation, however, from Workplace Relations Commission and or Arthur Cox that the transcript had been sent in by the court stenographer and hadn't been instructed to do so. So the original hearing then, which I think was supposed to be in May, was adjourned for some time, and then it went ahead, and then Miss Burke raised questions and argued strongly and so on about the use of the stenographer and the transcript and the private arrangement and so on. So Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger abandoned that hearing and basically threw out Miss Burke's case. The question then arose as to the cost situation. There was a cost hearing last week. It was terminated early as well because of what Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger described as the unacceptable conduct of Miss Burke. And she was going to make the decision then as to the costs based on the written submissions of the parties. So that's what she's done now. So she has awarded costs to Arthur Cox and Workplace Relations Commission against Miss Burke, save for the costs of the cost hearing and the cost of the stenographer and the transcript. The judge noted that this type of order was highly unusual and generally limited to circumstances where the court considers it necessary to mark its disapproval of a party's conduct. Clearly that's what's happened in this case. Miss Burke had complained about Arthur Cox hiring a stenographer and the court's use of the transcripts, but as I say, the judge was surprised that the transcript wasn't shared with Miss Burke at the time and adjourned the case then. So the court had received a copy of the transcript when Miss Burke had not. That was a surprise to the judge during a cost hearing last July, and that cost hearing then was adjourned as a consequence of that to October, and last week or the week before there it was terminated early by the judge because of what she considered to be the inappropriate conduct of Miss Burke. The court accepted the letter of explanation that the transcript had been sent in by the stenographer to the court without instructions from Arthur Cox or from the Workplace Relations Commission. The judge said she has made no finding critical of the institution of these proceedings, and she was satisfied there was an arguable case for Miss Burke's requested orders. So to be clear, the judge is actually saying there that she has no difficulty with Miss Burke bringing the original application to the High Court for an order against the Workplace Relations Commission, and she's also satisfied that there was an arguable case. So the sad thing here from Miss Burke's perspective is that her conduct caused the judge to throw the case out basically, even though the judge is saying that she's finding no criticism of Miss Burke's bringing the proceedings in the first instance, and that she was satisfied that she had an arguable case. And to be clear about the judge in this case, Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger, she's a senior counsel who specialised in employment law. So of all the judges to come before with an employment related, Workplace Relations Commission related case, Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger is one who wouldn't have needed any great boning up on employment law, and in fact she is well known to have written one of the seminal works on discrimination law in Ireland. So that's Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger. Miss Burke had asked the court to depart from the usual practice of making the losing side pay the costs by directing the parties to pay their own costs. She submitted that her legal proceedings, raised issues of manifest public importance regarding the WRC's operations. The court was not satisfied, however, that she rendered a public service in instituting the proceedings, or that her failed application seeking for the judge to recuse herself was reasonable. The judge reiterated again that the allegations or accusations by Miss Burke of senior counsel, Mr. Peter Ward, senior counsel, lying were devoid of any merit. Yet Miss Burke and members of her family present in court chose to loudly repeat the accusations at the costs hearing, according to Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger. So she determined that Miss Burke should discharge the costs incurred by the WRC and Arthur Cox, save for those related to the October 11th costs hearing and for the stenographer and the transcript. The background to this case is that Miss Burke was dismissed from her job as a solicitor in Arthur Cox in late 2019, and she brought a claim then to the WRC for unfair dismissal. The WRC adjudicator found that due to the interruptions from Miss Burke and her mother Martina, that the adjudication could not go ahead, and basically after a number of warnings threw the case out. After that then Miss Burke brought this High Court application seeking to have orders made that the WRC had no business throwing her case out, and perhaps seeking orders that the case should be sent back for hearing again, etc., etc. But that full hearing was abandoned by Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger because of what she believed was the conduct of Miss Burke, which she categorised or classified as seriously prejudicial to the conduct of a good hearing and basically an abusive process. Miss Burke has asked the judge at the cost hearing, in fact, to set aside that finding that it was an abusive process, but Miss Justice Bulger refused to do so. If you've watched this video or watched this on YouTube, you might give the thumbs up down below and subscribe to my channel. And if you are listening on iTunes or on Spotify to my podcast, the Irish Law and Small Business Podcast, I'd appreciate if you would give it a review perhaps and subscribe. Thanks a lot.